Well, welcome in to My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital. Well, thank you guys so much for joining in today. We have an exciting show, and really, we have a very exciting week. As today, we'll be looking at a Georgia preview with Trey from the Doghouse podcast from the College Huddle. And throughout this week, we're also going to have an interview with Neil McCready on Wednesday. And we will finish off with a week 7, already week number 7, matchups and picks show. So it's going to be a loaded week. To start off the week with some bad news, unfortunately, 4-star offensive tackle Mario Nash Jr. Decommitted from Mississippi State today. Nash was a guy really heavily regarded and heavily recruited, had 42 other offers from major schools. He's a guy, though, that even though he's been committed since before the summer and obviously has a great opportunity to play early, still took visits, even though he was committed to the Bulldogs. And so once you take a number of those visits, it just becomes harder and harder to lock a guy down. So Mississippi State gets some bad news there. Did see some news around the league in the transfer portal. Jaheim Otis, the defensive tackle, the massive defensive tackle for Alabama, is shutting down his season, is going to redshirt, and is expected to enter the transfer portal at the end of the season. Something just keep in mind for Mississippi State fans with no sort of insider info, just kind of looking at this from a logical perspective. Otis was coached by Coleman Hutzler at Alabama, so there's a connection that is there. So something to keep an eye on at least. But let's not waste any more time. We're going to bring in Trey Tucker from the Doghouse podcast. He represents Georgia for the College Huddle. Man, Trey, how are you doing today, my man?
Yeah, doing pretty well here. Nice fall day here in Charlotte, North Carolina, but excited to talk about the Dogs from each side.
That's right, man. Yeah, we
going
got
on the road at Georgia. Yeah, can't wait.
That's right. Yeah, Mississippi State headed to Athens, Georgia. It's 4:15 Eastern, 3:15 Central kickoff there in Athens as Mississippi State takes on the Georgia Bulldogs. True freshman starting quarterback Michael Van Buren should be getting his second start. His first start was versus the University of Texas, and second will be against Georgia. So he will be very battle tested by the end of the season, but this is still his second game. Trey, Georgia's coming off a very interesting 2 weeks.
Right.
2 weeks ago, they go on the road at night. The former president is there, like everyone is in town, and College game day, and Georgia falls very late against Alabama. Very emotional game, and a really impressive second half by Georgia. Then Georgia takes down Auburn this past week in a game that was somewhat sluggish in the first half, but Georgia ends up finishing them off. Well, now they arrive this week versus Mississippi State, and on the horizon, they're going on the road at Texas. And there's got to be kind of a whirlwind of up and downs on what's going on. Where are Georgia fans kind of seeing their team this part in the season?
Yeah, definitely great question. So answer it starting from the start. So Alabama game was very roller coaster, being down 28-0, tale of two halves, as everybody was saying. And then they battled back, showed resilience, was very gritty, and fell a little short. I think it ended up being that the two best players on the team were Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams, 17-year-old phenom. I'm sure no one hasn't heard.
Is that how old he is? I wasn't sure how old he was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Was he? Yeah, I'm not sure either. And they went to him, just took a shot, had a crazy play, made the Georgia secondary look like kids on the playground. It ended up getting the win, very emotional. And then, as we know, Alabama goes on the road, lays an egg, and gets shocked the world and loses to Vanderbilt. So I think this basically goes to what Kirby Smart always says. It's very tough to play in the SEC. You got to respect every opponent. And Georgia, coming into Auburn, I think everybody felt confident about it. Also, it sounds like the fans weren't really into it, maybe left at halftime, not a lot of juice. Kirby Smart calls them out. So I hope I think as Georgia fans, we kind of see it as a standard, like, hey, we're expecting winning these games. And we don't remember that, 2016, 2017 when Kirby was getting there. And we need to maybe not be as spoiled as Georgia fans. But good win over Auburn, not perfect. Feel like they were in second gear the whole time on offense. But Carson Beck did some things, 20 of 29. Or 23 or 29, had 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards, no picks. Didn't turn the ball over, which is great, and neither did Auburn. But I think it ended just being we just had more talent and won convincingly 31-13. But moving forward to you guys, I hope we can maybe continue to see some of the skill guys, some wideouts emerging, get the running game going, and just go out and play good football against the team we should win. I go back to our previous preview video I think we had in summer is keys to the victory is always outrush the team and win the turnover battle, and you're going to be in pretty good shape. So we'll see, and I think looking like the temperatures are going to be pretty nice too, because they said it was hot in Athens this past weekend.
Yeah, well, let's back up to the Alabama loss against Vanderbilt, because as you mentioned, the battle that Alabama and Georgia had in Tuscaloosa was a remarkable game, especially the second half. I mean, it was such a roller coaster, as you mentioned. But Alabama goes on the road and loses to Vanderbilt in a game that, I mean, nobody saw coming. Nobody saw coming. Like it was incredible. They dropped that game in Nashville. The goalposts go into the Cumberland River off of Broadway.
It's just crazy you saying that. You actually said the word. Vanderbilt beating Alabama, and they were 0-60 in top 5 opponents. Some crazy stat, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's wild. Where does what does Georgia look at? I mean, Georgia loses to Alabama. Now, of course, we're not following the property as if Vanderbilt would beat Georgia, but like, what does Georgia think of that after this incredible game in Tuscaloosa, and then Alabama goes the very next game and drops to Vandy?
Yeah, first, the positive is laughing at Alabama fans just because every time they lose, but it does. I'll say for me, it kind of did hurt. Not kind of was a little hurt a little bit that hey, we still can't beat Alabama in this 1-6 that everybody throws around. Kirby Smart 1-6 can't beat Alabama. It's got demons, exercise the demons, all the nightmares. But I think it also shows that maybe I think Alabama got exploited in that second half by Georgia. I bet you Vanderbilt saw some loopholes there, some weaknesses, and I think what's the Pavada? Is that his name? The
Pavia, Diego Pavia.
Yeah, him being mobile. I mean, they were throwing up stats that he's equivalent to Johnny Manziel back in 2012, putting up that. I think they exploited that. Vanderbilt's been a scrappy team this year. I mean, pushed a top 10 Missouri team to OT, even though Missouri got exploited this past weekend. Just goes back to showing you it's tough in the SEC, going on the road. And I think after that great win with all that emotion, that I bet you they would never say it, but they were like, we're maybe going to sit some guys, maybe kind of do roster management. We're going to work on some things. And then they took their foot off the gas, and they underestimated Vanderbilt. They wouldn't say anything, of course, out in public, but they're like, it's Vanderbilt. 22-point spread on the road. We just beat Georgia, and got caught with their pants down, as they said, and struggled. And the thing was Vandy was like up pretty much all of the game. I know in the second half, Alabama was getting settled in. I saw when it was 23-14, 23-21, and they scored. I'm like, all right, they'll make adjustments the way they always do. But it also showed that Nick Saban wouldn't lose that game. Nick Saban wouldn't have been up 28-0 on Georgia and let them come back. That maybe they take the foot off the gas. I don't know if it's Kalen DeBoer getting settled in, but you hate to bring up Nick Saban. Nick Saban wouldn't have made that game close with Georgia, and he wouldn't drop this game against Vanderbilt, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, and certainly not with this roster, right? And, like we talk about that 2007 loss to Louisiana Monroe, he was rebuilding a team in that loss, and then they never lost to a team like that again. They lost a few games over that next 13-year period, but not to a team like that. And now Alabama has all this talent and drops to Vanderbilt. I don't know, man. Alabama fans have got to be patient. I know I sound so silly even saying that, but there are folks that are being critical even as to like his attire in the game and how that wasn't like Nick's, and I am very nervous that if Alabama drops 2 more games, especially another game they should not lose, people are just going to start saying some crazy things. Now, Greg Burns is a really good athletic director, and so he's not going to do anything crazy, but it's just wild, man. You lose to Vanderbilt, and everything's kind of on the table. Another team in the state of Tennessee lost in the Tennessee Volunteers on the road at Arkansas. What did you make of that matchup? And also Nico just deciding to run out of bounds there at the very end of the game.
Yeah, that was an odd play. At least throw it up there and give it a shot. I was texting with a diehard Tennessee buddy. He says their O line was just getting beat. They don't have a good O line. He's not able to kind of sit back there and go through progressions. Defense is scrappy, but I think it's one of those on the road. And I think at one time it was 3-0 at halftime. Just couldn't get it going. And I think they struggled the week before because Tennessee fans and everything like Nico for Heisman after them beating a bad NC State team 51-10. And usually with Josh Heupel, everybody's very excited and they see the offense, the gimmicky offense maybe, and it's very explosive video game numbers. And then slowly, as you see throughout the season, usually a defenses adjust and kind of bring them back down. And I think that's what's happening. And what I thought they were going to be scary, and I'm still nervous about when they come to Athens, is they finally have a defense, got a great front seven, and the defense is keeping them in there. But it's almost like the offense has been struggling. They had a good win against Oklahoma on the road, but Oklahoma kind of scrapped their way back into it. It was 21-15, but real surprising that they dropped this against Arkansas. With Sam Pittman smoking hot seat. I don't know if this is going to cool the Jets on that. Great win against top 10, but they got to go to Alabama has to go on the road at Neyland at Tennessee. So that'll be interesting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great matchup. I remember you and I were on a show before the season going over top coaches in the SEC from top, I think we ranked them from 1 to 16. And I could not have been more wrong on this Arkansas team. I really believe that Sam Pittman by game 4 was going to be out, and they're showing a lot more fight than I thought. There's been some murmurings that he might just go ahead and retire at the end of the season. Anyway, he's mentioned this is the last job he wants to have, so I would not be surprised if he's ready to give the reins over to Bobby Petrino or somebody else, or Barry Odom even coming back that way. But yeah, could not have been more wrong. Now, at this point in the season, where Georgia is, they have a really remarkable opportunity. Obviously, we'll get to the matchup with Mississippi State here in just a second. But the following week, they go on the road to go play Texas. And to go play a Texas team that by then we would assume will have Quinn Ewers back. The opportunity for Georgia, especially now that Alabama has shown this blemish on their record losing at Vanderbilt, the opportunity for Georgia has to be magnificent throughout the rest of the season, does it not?
It does. I think more and more when you looked at it earlier in the year and then they struggled, like when we were struggling at Kentucky. I mean, when I came out of it, I'm like, maybe this isn't Georgia team in its past because you had Alabama, got at Texas, you got Ole Miss, which has lost one but rebound and looked great against South Carolina, and you got Tennessee. So and even originally in the season, my pick was 10-2 just because such a brutal schedule. And I always wanted them to split Alabama or Texas game. So back to your question, yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a night game now, 7:30 on the road. The other good thing is Georgia has been tested already on the road twice at a scrappy Kentucky team, and they had the roller coaster ride at Alabama. So I feel like they're battle tested on the road. I just want to see them get more explosives on offense. So that's kind of where I'm at. The defense is kind of coming into their own. They're going to have Kirby Smart's pedigree. So it's going to be a tough matchup. And then also the other one's Quentin Ewers. Does he come back rusty? Because I think that'd be around 4 games he missed. And I know there's oblique injuries can be aggravating. I mean, I don't know if he takes a shot in the game. So it'll be, real interesting to see how he looks coming off, this time off.
But before that game even kicks off, man, oh man, Georgia has got to take on the mighty Mississippi State Bulldogs that are rolling into town this Saturday. Right. At the given moment, the point spread is at 32 for Georgia and Mississippi State. To put into comparison, the spread was 38.5 when Texas and Mississippi State played each other. That did not Texas did not cover the points. But in this matchup, for maybe Mississippi State fans that are not as familiar, when you think about Georgia's team, we obviously know they're very well coached, and Kirby Smart's going to make great adjustments. But is there a part of this team, when we'll go on both sides with the positive and the negative, is there a part of this team that is it's possible to be exploited, like that you look at and see as a weakness?
Yeah, I would say what Georgia fans and we've been disappointed in is first off the run game, where I have to look at the updates, that lower tier. I think at one time we were like 58th in rushing because in the past, Georgia has prided themselves in running the ball. They're always a run heavy team. Even Todd Monken, it would be a good mix. And I feel like it's more pass first team, with Mike Bobo. So the running game has been disappointing. Trevor Etienne did have a good game this past against Auburn, 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nate Frazier, who's an explosive freshman, he got in the game a little more. All the people on all the forums were like, "Where's Nate Frazier?" Because he looked great and speedy against a good Clemson team, good Clemson defense. I think it was 11 carries, 83 yards and touchdown. So rushing game has been struggling, is just disappointing. Also, the O-line, I know they had an early injury with Tate Ratledge, who's out. It might be late October and even in November. I'm not sure when we'll get him back. Had a sprained MCL. And also he had tightrope surgery for ankle. Kind of weird that he had like a knee and an ankle injury on all one play. And then just past weekend, our center was out like a last-minute scratch, Jared Wilson, and we had to go with our third-string center, Drew Bobo, who's Mike Bobo's son. So that was nervous because, you want him to get the snap. I don't know if he's been practicing a lot. So there's that. You're down 2 starters. So back to answer your question, is the O-line to me has been a weakness, and you could just tell Carson Beck's taking some sacks. And I hope we can improve on that and get some guys back, or at least get Jared Wilson back. But the O-line has been disappointing and a struggle this year so far.
Any other Mississippi or any other team for Mississippi State that might be something that they would look to exploit? Try to get through the offensive line and create a pass rush. This Mississippi State team does not have one by any means. It just has a lot of trouble generating pressure. On the other side of things, what's something that Georgia will look to lean on heading into this matchup?
Yeah, I think Carson Beck is looking a little better, and he did show a lot of grit and determination in that second half against Alabama. Because in the first half, I'll tell you, I was with friends at a sports store. It was a Georgia sports bar in Charlotte. Like, I wanted to bench him. He was 5 of 15, 2 picks, had that costly fumble. But he turned it around, and as you know, they had to air it out a lot, and they had to throw a lot on fourth down. They were 5 for 5 on fourth down, which took a lot of resilience. But they were terrible. I think 3 of 15 on third down. But you had that extra down, and I think that was that put a lot on Alabama. Maybe gassed them out. Alabama's defense in the second half to have Georgia hang around. So the underneath game, they got some tight ends. Of course, no Brock Bowers. No one's going to be a Brock Bowers, but get that, and they're kind of coming in together of who their receivers are. Dominique Lovett, Arian Smith can be good when he catches the ball. He's very explosive. Colby Young, who's a taller guy, a long body, can take a lot of deep passes in jump balls. And then London Humphrey, the Vanderbilt transfer, has shown some glimpses. He's coming off. He missed the game with Mono 2 weeks ago, but he had 2 receptions for 40 yards. So some of the receivers, Dylan Bell also, the receivers are coming into their own. So I think that's going to be a positive going forward. So if we can get the running game and that going forward, and then another negative to be nitpicky is that a lot of missed tackles, a lot of one-on-one they've missed. They missed Jaquez Hunter, broke one, and the guy could have wrapped him up. But they gang tackle very well, but need to clean up the missed tackles.
When you think about this matchup, and for any Mississippi State fan that is hoping that Georgia will be looking ahead at Texas, I just wouldn't count on it. Georgia being so well coached by Kirby Smart and coming from that Nick Saban tree, they're not overlooking anybody. Kirby Smart this week, especially, you pointed this out over on your show, especially after Alabama loses to Vanderbilt. I mean, Kirby Smart's going to be giving all kinds of different motivations, like see what happens when you overlook someone. So I would count on Georgia being locked in and being absolutely focused for this game. Do you have a score prediction? Which way do you think this game's going to go? Is it Georgia going to kind of slumbering through and just kind of playing with its food a little bit, or do you think they will be from the jump be ready to go?
As Georgia has in all of their games with the Tennessee Tech game, they have played with their food or had to get their coffee, hadn't woken up yet in the first half. They finally did get 14 against Auburn, but previous 7 against Alabama, 3 against Kentucky in the first half. They scored, pretty good bit. Tennessee Tech, lesser opponent, and then only 6, 2 field goals against Clemson. So I could see, Mississippi State hanging around. I hope maybe they can get maybe a score in the first quarter, maybe 2 scores in the second. But I think Mississippi State, this will be a game. Could be, 20, 21-7, 21-10 at the half. I think Georgia pulls away because to me, Kirby Smart's one of the best making adjustments in the second half. And I can see, I'm going to say 41-10, not to cover because that's a big 32 points spread. And I think Georgia's only covered once this year, and that's against Clemson. So not great against the spread, but I'm going to go 41-10, hopefully get out with no injuries and get ready for the big-time matchup at Texas in 2 weeks.
I think that's right. And honestly, if there's a Bulldog fan, I'm thinking 38-16-ish would be a really good scenario for them. Right. But Georgia can score quick, especially with Mississippi State's defense. In the second half, we saw it against Texas. They just got worn out and could not hold the water anymore. The dam kind of bursts. Right. And Texas was able to make some plays down the field. I think Georgia in this scenario with Georgia is probably something similar. If it's somewhat close in the first half, that would be good. But also Georgia's a little bit different environment than Texas. Texas is not used to the SEC type of environment. They will probably get there, but like Georgia fans are going to be probably pretty ready to go from the get go. Especially, honestly, now that Alabama has gone down. I don't know. I see this sea of opportunity for Georgia now that Alabama is there, but it's kind of like the mental thing. If they meet again, is there something in their head, even though they might be a better team than them? So that is going to be interesting, man. We're looking forward to the matchup again. 3:15 Central, 4:15 Eastern, as Mississippi State takes on the Georgia Bulldogs. Trey, man, take some time and tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure. On Twitter, we are at My Dogs Pod. Actually, I think that's yours. I apologize. Sorry, that was yours. Anyway, it is at Doghouse Talk. Also, we're at the Doghouse Podcast on YouTube. Just surpassed 500 subscribers. So check us out over there and support the channel. That'd be great. On the road to 1,000. Try to get monetized. That would be the goal. And also, we're at the Doghouse Podcast on Instagram. Actually been doing really well on the reels there. I had one where I mispronounced Jalen Milroe. I said Milroy, and about over 100 comments were correcting me. So I think
I bet you they probably would not be correcting you this week. I'll say that.
Exactly. I think I can say that. So yeah, check us out on and they're also on Spotify as well. So we're on 4 different ones. So Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. Had a quick question for you, London. So 1-4, and what were your original expectations for Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby? And is this going to be one of those, maybe they give him a couple seasons to get in there? Is it going to be on to the next, or what's the expectations?
On some of the previous shows you and I did together, I mentioned I think the best case scenario for this team was 5-7 because of the schedule is, just incredibly difficult. Mm-hmm. And with the first time head coach coming in and kind of trying to establish his culture, I thought 5-7 looked like the best case scenario. At this point in the season, man, 4-8 would really be nice. Really, UMass is the only other team on the schedule that looks I'm not even going to say guaranteed. Looks promising. Yeah, at this point, you lose to Toledo like we did at home, and anything can happen. But no, I think because of the events that have happened in the past few years, with Mike Leach passing away, then you get Zach Arnett in, and you don't even give him a full season, and now you replace him with someone else. Really, Mississippi State can't afford to let anybody go, and I don't think they should either. Just for the record, I think Jeff Lebby has shown his scheme, I believe, is going to work. He just doesn't have the horses to go just yet. Yeah. And he's shown concepts of when you can dial up some plays to get receivers open versus the competition that Mississippi State has played against. But like, let's just say they drop the ball, or you have a your concepts of running the ball are like the opportunity presents itself, but let's say the running back runs directly into the guard instead of into the hole that has been created for them. You can see some of these things if you look closely. I think his scheme is going to work. But man, Mississippi State has such a deficit in talent than they used to, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Which is one of the reasons on the positive, Mississippi State has been able to recruit fairly well on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
Really because playing time is at an all-time high. I mean, you can come to Mississippi State and play in the SEC for year one for several of these guys.
Right.
So that's a part of it. But no, I think Jeff Lebby, his scheme is going to work. And I really believe Mississippi State is going to give him some time. He's just been dealt a really tough hand with how the program was. Then you lose your starting quarterback that had a lot of experience, and you have a true freshman at quarterback. It's a lot to overcome. So no, I think Mississippi State should give him at least 3 years, and if it's not at a bowl, not a bowl team by that point, then maybe look somewhere else. But I really do believe he's going to get it going in the right direction.
Yeah, appreciate that breakdown. But yeah, you got to give him some time, get his culture in there, get his coaching in there, and then also maybe you guys can get some pieces in the transfer portal as well. So.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Trey, I always enjoy getting to talk to you, and make sure you guys check him out. Trey does a really good job on his show, and it really is very high quality and well done when you watch his show. And yeah, we certainly enjoy and appreciate him stopping by. And thank you guys so much for listening to My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital. We have 2 other shows that are coming your way this week, so make sure you're following us on Twitter at MyDogsPod. So you can kind of keep up with what we are doing. We got all these dogs everywhere this week, man. We got all kinds of dogs we're talking about. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you're subscribed to the MPW Digital Network, and make sure you're following us on Twitter as well. Thank you.